Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, and I am worn through the storm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Deppner. This is a special experimental Love Them Both live call-in show in which I would like to discuss questions that youth have in the process of growing up. I've been, since last summer, I've been volunteering as a mentor for an after-school program for youth from ages 5 and 6 up to 14, and beyond is okay too. And I'm reminded that of the questions that youth need to learn in the process of growth, the important questions that they need to learn the answers to in the process of growing up. So that's what this show is for. It's kind of an experimental show. I haven't done this before. I don't know what it'll be like, but I have several topics in mind that I know from my mentoring with youth that will come up with youth as they're concerned about appearance, one. I want to discuss at least all four of these today and maybe more. One would be their concerns about appearance. Two would be the importance of their words. The youth need to learn how powerful their words are and to be careful with them. Third is a topic that comes up is how to treat girls. Oddly enough, this is an important topic for youth to learn. And the fourth topic, of course, in our world today, the danger of drugs and alcohol. Now, there are more topics, but I'd like to at least address these four. And if you have any youth questions out there who would like to call in and ask questions, you may do so. And there's a call-in number. To give you time, maybe you have youth around your house somewhere, you'd like to call them in, hey, come and watch this show, see if you have any questions. Let me take some time to give you some time to do that by talking about the Ten Commandments behind me on the wall, and the questions of hate versus mass killings that are going on in our society. When I grew up in the 1950s, the prayer, Bible school, and the Ten Commandments were in the school, in the schools. It was just part of the process, and this was a great thing. In fact, I graduated in 1962, which was the last year that they had prayer and Bible study, prayers, but particularly in the schools. And it broke my heart to see that because I always realized the value of these spiritual things in the public, government-sponsored public school system. They didn't push religion, but I found school to be a hard, grinding place. And the Bible reading, the scriptural reading, and the Ten Commandments gave a vision beyond the school, government-backed vision, a school-backed vision of that there was something bigger than us, a reason for hope in life, bigger than the school, bigger than the government. That was a good thing. It gave a sense of purpose in life kids could have. It wasn't forced on anybody, but by the school recognizing it, that was an authority, recognizing God above themselves as greater purpose. And that was important, valuable. So, concerning the Ten Commandments, recently I saw an email from someone, a school director, at one of the, in this case it was actually the Woodland Hills School District, criticizing the old-time way of doing things, which involved the Ten Commandments in the schools and parental authority, which comes from the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments say, honor your father and mother. That's parental authority. that God is giving two parents. Remember, according to Scripture, Adam and Eve and their family were created before any government. And there was never a government-run school system until this 20th century in America, until these recent century. So, but this school director at Woodland Hills really had contempt and blamed the old-time way of doing things for the hate. They believe hatred came from parental authority and apparently the Ten Commandments. This person argued that if you look at Galatians 5, the 5th chapter, about the 20th verse, it says we are to, in the New Testament, we are to live by the Spirit and not by the letter of the law, the Ten Commandments. And that's true, in a sense. We are to seek salvation through the Spirit of God and not salvation through the laws of God. However, that same verse says that we need the laws of God to live by, to make life civil in this world. Not for salvation, just to live by, to get along. So this school director was implying that the Ten Commandments and the parental authority caused the hatred that exists back then in the 50s. There was, I admit, racial hatred. There was a targeting of gays in gay bars and things like that. But the racial hatred, let me explain, did not come from the Ten Commandments. They did not come from Scripture. The racial hatred in America, segregation in America back in the 50s, before Martin Luther's, this came from fear. I finally learned it came from the fear of white people. White people were afraid that intermarriage with blacks would abolish, destroy, cause the white race to vanish, which of course wasn't true, but that was a fear of survival. And let that be, anytime there is a fear of survival, the emotions run high. That's where the racial prejudice, strong racial prejudice of the 50s and before came from. It was a fear by white people that racial intermarriage would destroy the white race. And likewise, it was wrong. Gays, bars were persecuted by police, and that was probably wrong too. Homosexuality was a sin then, as it is now, but the police probably shouldn't have persecuted them in the bars like they did. So there was hatred, but it wasn't caused by parental authority, Ten Commandments, or any scriptural family edicts. So the modern left, the Democrats, the liberals today have tried to get rid of racial hatred, all that hatred, by getting rid of the Ten Commandments, the family unit, parental authority, and all such things. And what do we have today? Without the Ten Commandments, which will tell you, you shall not kill, you shall not murder, without parental authority to teach children to respect other people and control their lives, we don't have racial hatred right now, but we have mass violence all over the place. We have these killings and shootings all over the place because there are kids all over the place who don't know morally right from wrong. They don't know the right from wrong that is in the Ten Commandments and that is needed to live by. Not for salvation, but to live by. So when these people call us hateful and point the finger at us, hateful, they have three fingers pointing back at them for causing the mass killings that are going on without the Ten Commandments, without parental authority and government authority in place of parental authority, which destroy the family. So it's a good thing to keep. It's worth keeping that in mind when these people call the family, parents, parental authority, family authority hateful, is that they have fostered all of this violence by destroying the family, by destroying the ability of families to raise children. They haven't made things better. More people are dying today than ever. So All right, let me address in my mentoring of after-school mentoring. One of the questions I've noticed has come up among young people, and we're talking about people 5 and 6, up to 11 and 14, but it can go on past that. Actually, some of us never fully grow up. So if that's you, don't be ashamed. But it was questions about appearance. I remember one example of a girl. She wasn't ugly, but she came up the hallway and was crying badly. And I put my arm around her and said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Well, somebody said I was ugly." Now, that's a very personal insult to make to somebody, say to somebody, because our appearance is important to us, especially to young people, to say they're ugly. And they also said, well, they said that. And that was very personal. And I said, "Well, who said that to you?" And she told me. So I went to the other person and said, "Well, why did you say that to her?" Never say grievously and such painfully insulting things to other people. Don't say hateful, hurtful things to other people. And the response was, yeah, but she was doing something. She didn't like the way she was bossing her brother or younger brother around or whatever. Well, there's two problems there. If the girl was mistreating her younger brother, bossing him around or whatever it was, that's one problem. But the second one, you don't solve it by making your powerful words the problem. You don't tell someone a personal insult like you're ugly. Such a thing can hurt someone the rest of their life. Our words are powerful. So the important thing about appearance, which I tell youth, is that that God made you to look the way he wanted you to look, period. That's the bottom line. You don't have to apologize for it or any such thing. He has a purpose in your life, and the purpose he has for you is more important than how you look. So remember that, young people, about concerning appearance. Don't say unkind words about other people's appearance, but the way you look is the way God wanted you to look. That's the bottom line. That should end the story. That's the authority. He has a purpose for you, and his purpose for you is more important than the way you look. Now, having said that, I would like to add we should take care of the way we look, although beauty is not important. And as you get older and older, kids, you'll come to realize this too. Beauty can be a curse, in fact. I've known those very few beautiful people who just get too much attention that they don't want, and they can't get away from it. So beauty can be a curse. I've heard this from more than one source in so many words. But nevertheless, your looks are not that important. Beauty is not that important. But take care of the looks God has given you. This means personal hygiene. I don't think you have to have a bath every night, but you should wash every day and brush your teeth every day. Keep clean so you don't smell and cause an offense to others. So hygiene is part of it. I had a brother-in-law married to my sister, and he was a nice guy. He is a nice guy. But one thing he had was a crook in his nose. And my sister wanted him to who was his wife, wanted him to have a nice straight nose. So she wanted him and asked him to get an operation to have that kink, bend taken out of his nose, which he did for her. And his nose came out real nice and straight and looked fine. But he said, "I would never do that. Hurts. The pain involved in that was so much, I would never do it again." So there you go. His nose did look better, but he didn't think it was worth the pain. So you look the way, tell people and teach people that the way they look is the way God wanted them to look. Looks are not that important. God's purpose for their lives is more important. But take care of how you look. There's hygiene, I mentioned. Then there's healthier nutrition. You can be overweight or get overweight by not learning about nutrition. Two, I've lost 50 pounds since I started losing weight. It's taken me a couple years, but I did it by changing my diet, by getting away from the carbohydrates, which are the calorie foods. Now, these are the foods that taste good too, but if you think it's important to get away from the bad carbohydrates and the calories for whatever reason, whether it's diabetes or calories to lose weight, it'll be worth your while to motivate you to do it. So the carbohydrate foods are the baked goods, the grains, and the pies and the donuts, things I love. There's also the pasta, delicious pasta. I always loved that too, but I had to cut them out, most of them out. There's potatoes, French fries, mashed potatoes, and rice I'd put in that category. These also contain a lot of carbohydrates. But carbohydrates break down into sugar, and sugar means calories, and that means gaining weight. And the fourth category is that I learned to avoid was concentrated sugars. This could be, I loved banana splits. I had to give them up. And a big one is soft drinks. Today, and juices today are full of sugar. Even what they call grape juices are not really juices. They're made with juice concentrate and a lot of sugar. Sugar means calories, it means weight gain. So to stop from gaining weight, avoid these carbohydrate foods and replace them. Well, what are you going to do when you're hungry? To satisfy your hunger, turn to lean proteins and salads. Lean proteins could include hard-boiled eggs, chili, chicken nuggets. Go to lean, and it can include any kind of sandwich without the bread, because the bread is where the grains, where the carbohydrates are. I mean, you could have hamburgers if you want to, just don't eat the bun. Fish or whatever. Lean protein can satisfy your hunger, and salads too are healthy for you. So these are ways you can lose weight. If you're overweight without hunger pangs, turn to the lean proteins, the hard-boiled eggs, the chili, the chicken nuggets, the fish sandwich without the bread, and so forth. Okay, so that's about taking care of your appearance that God did give you. But the basic appearance, God made you to look the way He wanted to look, and you have His authority for that. You don't have to apologize. There's no apology for it, but just take care of it. Okay, that's one question that has come up with youth is they think beauty is important, and I did too at one time when I was young. But we outgrow that eventually and know it's the personality and character of the person that becomes more important in truth. Second area that comes up with youth that they need to learn about, very important one, are their words. Words are powerful. And you'll see on the screen there, I put a footnote saying that the Old Testament book of Proverbs is the key textbook for teaching youth learning and discretion. And I'm going to use some of those proverbs in my discussion with you here today, especially about words. There's some. One of the proverbs says, life and death are in the power of the tongue. If you tell a person depressed and you tell them to kill themselves, they might do it. They might be so depressed they might. Words are powerful, and you don't want to hurt people in that way. You don't want to hurt people by hurtful words like telling them they're ugly or anything so personal as that. Never say cruel words to other people. If you have an argument with other people about some other issue, deal with that issue. but not with words, cruel words that you can't take back. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. That's Proverbs, I believe it's in chapter 18. Very valuable and important lesson to learn. The injury you cause, if you say you're ugly, the injury you cause can last a lifetime. You can't take those words back, so you shouldn't utter. What youth need to learn is don't utter cruel words in the first place. Proverbs 15. It says, to say life and death are in the power of the tongue, it also says you're going to eat. A person is going to be satisfied by the words from his mouth. If you're uttering hurtful, careless words, it's going to come back to you and hurt you. And it could destroy you. If you open wide your lips indiscriminately, you sow seeds of resentment in other people, and that can come back to hurt you. So life and death are in the power of the tongue. A man is going to eat good or bad by the words he utters. Very important for young people to learn about their words, to think before you speak, and say less. Don't have to say a lot of words about everything. Proverbs 15. Soft, for example, the choice between words works in two directions. Soft words, what's the word? How does it say that? Soft words take away anger. Grievous words, hateful words, stir up anger. Soft words cause peace, make peace. So your words definitely are going to go. Every word you use is going to go in one of two directions. Soft words pass. I wish I could think of the full saying right now, and I can't. But soft words make peace. Grievous words stir up anger. You've got a choice there, young people. Learn the lesson. If you say the bad words in the book of James in the Bible, it says the tongue is like the bit we place in a horse's mouth. It's just a little piece of metal, but we can turn the horse this big horse to go in any direction we want with this little bit in its mouth. Likewise, the rudder of a huge ship is small. The ship can be driven by fierce waves, but a small rudder turns its direction, determines the direction. So our words are small, but they determine the direction, big directions that are taken. It goes on to say that, yes, the tongue is like a little flame that can set on fire the whole course of nature. So our words, the tongue is a little flame that can set on fire the whole course of nature. You know, these huge forest fires that occur out in the West are often started by a small flame left in a campfire. So our words work that way. And young people need to learn this. And the first rule is don't say cruel words to other people. You can't take those words back, and they can last injury, cause hurt in that person for the rest of their lives, for a long time. Don't want to do that. So you can think of it, you don't want to hurt, as not wanting to hurt other people, put yourself in their place. But you can also think of it, the trouble that words will cause if you use the wrong words. A tongue is like a little flame that can set on fire the whole course of nature. Soft words turn away anger. Grievous words stir up strife. This is a second lesson that young people need to learn as part of their socialization process. All right. The third topic that comes up, I've observed in mentoring these young people, ages 5 and 6 up through 14, especially the elementary age, sometimes a boy will hit a girl. The way you treat girls, never hit girls. Boys should never hit girls. And there's a reason. There are good reasons for this. boys need to learn not only not to hit girls, but to treat them with respect. And there are good reasons for this. And you should teach boys this and girls this. Why is this? Well, girls' lives are special. When you get right down to it, girls' lives are special. They're not weak, they're special. God gave to girls his strong and gentle qualities for the important purpose, the exalted purpose of being the first person to greet little children coming into this fast-moving world. God knew that little children would be overwhelmed by the big wide world, so he gave them a mother, a woman to be a mother, a gentle, soft, to be the one who greets them, closest to them. And the little child comes out of the mother's own body. He made them so close to their mother that they come out of their mother's body. And girls are charged then with the important task of raising children for humanity. This is an all-important task. Girls' lives are circumscribed about child rearing, about childbearing and child rearing. In early adolescence, they begin to have menstrual periods, which set them up to bear children. And when they do hopefully get married and have children, they go into as what is called the valley of the shadow of death to bear children. Woman comes close to death in childbearing, in pain. So they're heroes. Girls are heroes and should be respected for what they do. They enter the shadow of death to give birth to children. They deserve our respect. With that, let me ask the control room to run the PSA about defenders. Now, this defender is going to see before boys have a choice. I've said boys shouldn't hit girls, and they should respect them. I have to teach them this in socialization process. But a boy, in my experience, I think you will find that in the heart of a boy, in the heart of a man, there are two motives. God put there a natural motive to want to protect women and girls. But there's also the selfish human motive that we all have of wanting to be selfish, and in the case of boys, sexually use girls for their pleasure. So we have a choice to make there, boys. You want to be a defender of girls sexually and otherwise, or you're going to be an exploiter of them. And with this, let me ask the control room to run the PSA defenders.
I'm wondering what you'll be when you grow up, what you'll do and where you'll go. On this road you'll travel far. There's one thing that you can know for sure. Your daddy's here and will love you. Caring and protecting daddy's girl is what I'll do. When your childhood is all through, when you leave and live out on your own, your daddy's here and will love you. Caring and protecting daddy's girl is what I'll do.
Pornography is not victimless. Real men defend women and children no matter whose daughters they are. Become a defender today.
Okay, there you are, boys and men. You have a choice. You're going to do something honorable that you'll be proud of and become a defender of girls and women, or are you going to use them for pornography or other selfish purposes, which will come back to haunt you? Obeying the 10 Commandments, one of which is you should not commit adultery. will keep you from doing things you'll later be ashamed. If you obey that commandment, do not commit adultery, respect girls, don't go after them sexually, don't look at pornography. This will protect you from doing things that you'll later be ashamed of. You'll be glad you didn't go after that girl, because it'll end up being wormwood, nothing, and then you will have done it. I know one boy, young man, I told this to. I says, look, he was probably 17 or 18 in high school, and I says, obey the 10 Commandments, don't commit adultery, and these will protect you from doing things you'll later be ashamed of. And he says, yeah, that's what his parents teach him. But then they say, what if, I've said that to young men, and they say, but the girls say, if you don't have sex with us, we'll go have sex with someone else. That is a temptation, but having sex with those girls won't help you either. It'll turn out to be an empty process anyhow. And then you'll all be ashamed, and you won't have helped those girls. Let them go. If they want to hurt themselves, it's unfortunate and sad. Pray for them, but don't take part in their falling. But I know that can happen too. Be a real man. Respect girls sexually, and choose to be a defender of women. This is an important topic. If you don't respect girls sexually, you can get involved sooner or later. You're good chance you're gonna make one pregnant, and then have to deal with that, putting guilt on yourself and guilt on the girl. Here's what pregnancy does, and then if you choose to have, if somebody says let's have an abortion, or you do, or her parents do, or somebody does, here's what you force on yourselves. First of all, getting someone pregnant, we have to understand that there really is a person there in the girl's womb. Can I ask the control room to show the PSA, the final words of the unborn, final message of the unborn?
You don't have to say anything. I know where I am and why I was brought here. I know that in the next few minutes, someone's going to call my mom's name and take us to the room where I will be killed. But while there's still time, I want to thank you for caring about me when no one else did. Even though you were not able to save me, you did the best you could. The only thing I ask is that you keep fighting for every baby and never stop believing that one day you will find the way to save them all. But now my time is up, so please pray for me. I'm trying to be brave. You know, I think I would have been a pretty good little boy.
Okay, there you are, everyone. That shows the humanity of the unborn child. Now, that is it's a truth. We know it from ultrasound now. Scientifically, the doctors treat the unborn baby as a patient now, as a second patient now. So there's no doubt that it's a human child, that you produce when you get a girl pregnant, and you can't get out of it. You can't get out of it. There was another example, a true story, of the woman who was pregnant with a daughter, and when she was big with the pregnancy, had the baby in her belly, the daughter's brother used to sing to the baby through her mother's stomach, "You are my sunshine, you are my sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray." This is what the brothers sung to the baby in the mother's womb, and she could hear it through the mother's tummy. Because after the baby was born, the daughter was born, all of a sudden, her vital signs dropped to 0. They thought she was going to die. Her breathing went down, her pulse went down, until the boy came around and started singing again that song, "You are my son," that she had heard in the womb. "You are my sunshine, my..." Well, then her vital signs perked up. This is a real person. That if you get someone pregnant and you want to have an abortion, you are talking about killing a real person. I want to illustrate this to you. And what's that going to do to the girl that you should be protecting, and to you? It's going to cause guilt in both cases. Can we wash the PSA? Can the control room bring up the PSA? Night. This is the guilt, lifelong guilt you sentence this girl to. You can't get away from it.
They said you wouldn't be bothered by a voice calling for you in the night. There would be no trail of cereal through the house, no spills or stray toys. The clock ticks, all is calm, and you realize there is still a voice. If you face the pain of an abortion, call 1-800-593-2273.
Okay, that portrays the very lasting guilt. I've seen it in counseling. I'm a pro-life person. Seen it in counseling. We know about it in counseling over and over again. It lasts quite a long time unless the woman repents and knows she's forgiven by God, accepts Christ, and that's the way you can get that guilt. But otherwise, that guilt leads girls and then women, they try to submerge it for a long time, push it to the back of their mind. You can never totally get rid of it. Or they turn to drugs or alcohol to try and dull the pain. Or even they have even turned to prostitution because they feel they're not worthy of anything better. So this is the man's responsibility. This is the boy's responsibility in the first place. Don't start this process by having sex. Obey God's commandment. Do not commit adultery. It will keep you from doing things you later regret. Now, it's also going to have an effect of guilt on the man, on the male. Can have an effect on the male. Illustrated in the next PSA, washing. This PSA, this message is going to show how a man tries to make up for the guilt he feels for the abortion he caused.
I never did the dishes. I was never there when she really needed me. Then she decided she just couldn't have her baby. And I feel because I wasn't around, my child isn't around either. I do the dishes now, but I can never seem to get them clean.
If you are struggling with the pain of an abortion, call 1-800-593-2273.
If you haven't experienced it yet in life, you will experience doing something important, failing it, and then regretting it and trying to make up for it afterwards, make up the feelings. In this case, the male, is washing dishes to try and give him a feeling that he's made up for the responsibility he didn't take when his girlfriend had their baby. This can backfire on the male in other ways too, very bad ways. One, I'll give you some examples. One is there was a college-age boy, young man, got his girlfriend pregnant. When she got pregnant, she ran to her parents and they took her for an abortion. And here he was, he thought this girl loved him. And here she is taking his baby and killing it. And that broke him. That's a very, not only did she not love him, but she didn't even care about his child the way he did. So that can happen to you too. That can happen to a male, backfire on you. There has been, I know of another instance, true stories, of a male who committed suicide because he couldn't protect his baby. His girlfriend went to have an abortion. And it could be, So don't think you're going to force a girlfriend to have an abortion and escape yourself. You're not. we know that half of the women in abortion clinics are there because someone is threatening their life. And it's not always the boyfriend. It could be another member of the family, too. It could be parents. So these are very serious things. Stay out of them by the Ten Commandments. You shall not commit adultery. It'll keep you from doing things that you later regret. Okay, one other, if we have time here, fourth topic I'd like is important for youth to talk about are drugs and alcohol. Very important in our day age. Back before there was fentanyl, years ago, when there was LSD was probably the strongest. I know of a young man who, as they said, fried his brain. I guess he couldn't think. It must have made him like someone with Alzheimer's disease. I don't know exactly what he thought or felt. He didn't know where he was. But it was such torment, he killed himself from drugs because of what they did to his brain. Today we have fentanyl, and that fentanyl, it's snuck into other drugs. Maybe even, I don't know if they can put it in marijuana or not. Marijuana is not harmless. But fentanyl can kill you in one dose. So stay away from from drugs. Let me start off by insisting on that. It's dangerous. No, and one of the most dangerous things you have to watch out for is peers, peers who say, oh, it's harmless. I take them and it doesn't help me. I've seen that happen too. I remember, again, this was before fentanyl even, but I tried to tell an undergraduate years ago, I said, why are you taking drugs? That's dangerous. And he says, oh, they're just weak. I said, what about people who get injured in their brains from this? And he says, well, they're just weak. They couldn't take it. So, of course, he's wrong. Drugs are dangerous. Just because it hadn't gotten up to him at that point doesn't mean it won't, and that it won't hurt you. So beware of peers. One of the biggest things you have, peers who say it won't hurt you because it didn't hurt us. It's not hurting us. A second thing you have to watch out for with concerning drugs is the temptation today to be able to sell drugs to make easy money. This happens in the inner city a lot. I've known of people who've done that. When I was in the service, it was common practice, and probably still is, at the end of the month, guys would run out of money, and they'd want to borrow $5. They'd say, lend me $5, I'll pay you back on payday, 7 on payday at the end of the month, called 5 for 7. I heard this over and over. Well, came to a point, I says, I'm going to see if I can make money, lending them money like this. So about 4 months before I took $20, and I said, I'm going to lend this out and not worry about it for 5 for 7 and see if I make any money. Well, as time went on, I got a reputation. 5 for 7, word about me spread. More people started to come to me to borrow 5 for 7. I lent a guy $100 to buy a boat. A couple of months later, and he paid me back $108. By the time I got out, 4 months later, I had $400 in my locker that was easy money. That came from that 20 that I put up for this experiment. Now, I decided not to continue it. I could have continued it out of this for several reasons. One is it was kind of a loan sharking type of thing, and I felt that from my dad's teaching, I'd eventually get mixed up with people who were trouble. I didn't want to get mixed up with criminals and stuff like that. So I just discontinued it. But I meant to tell you this example because I now heard of another person, I don't know who this was, but who discovered when he was in the service, he could get marijuana from Mexico and sell it to people here in the United States. So when he got out, he continued to have them truck marijuana to him. He wasn't like me. He didn't stop doing it. But he saw he could make easy money just by getting someone to send him marijuana from Mexico or wherever it was, and he would sell it to people here in the United States and make money. He didn't do what I did. He wasn't responsible with the consequences, because you get into drugs for easy money. Number one, sooner or later you're going to wind up in jail. Sooner or later you're going to wind up in jail. Number two, think of what this man in selling drugs and what you would be in selling drugs, you're doing to your own community. You're doing to the inner city. You're making all these people, these young people, start selling drugs. They take drugs. They become criminals. Violence spreads. You are feeding and fueling the violence in the inner city by this little bit of money, easy money you want to make from selling drugs. So don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. Look at the consequences of what you're doing to your own possible future, probable future of winding up in jail. Eventually you're going to get caught. And two, what you're doing to other people and what you're doing to your own community, the inner city, the violence. It could catch you someday too. Well, how do you make an honest? What about making an honest living? Well, here's the Brookings Institute has some statistics that say that 99% of people. Now, this should encourage you about earning money the honest way. 99% of people raised in poverty. These are poor people. These could be inner city people. If they do three things, they can get out of poverty in their lifetime, 99% of people. One is they should graduate from high school. Instead of selling drugs, you should graduate from high school. Number two is get into the workforce, maybe get some trainings to get you started in the workforce. Go to work. And three, and this is an interesting one, again, it ties back to get married before you have children. If you're responsible enough and organized enough to get married before you have children, Brookings Institute statistics show that 99% of those people will get out of poverty, who were raised in poverty, will get out of poverty in their lifetime. Far superior than selling drugs, easy money making drugs to hurt other people, to hurt your communities. The crime may kill, the violence resulting from that could catch up with you. All right. Well, we got to be running out of time now, so I want to touch on one fifth point, that America, about all of this cries about racism today. America today is no longer systemically or institutionally racist anymore. Blacks have, and all races have, more freedom than they ever had, and more opportunity than anywhere in the world. But this, more than ever, but this drumbeat of for diversity. Diversity, we need, they say, the Democrats and the left says we need diversity. We got to put diversity in the college boards because they weren't made for black. We got to put diversity in everything, things that they may not even be interested in. They do this, according to Manning Johnston. I'm going to show you this PSA in a minute. A former communist, black Negro, who was a former communist. I'm going to show you his testimony that this drumbeat for diversity is to keep racial conflict alive, because behind it are the communists, as he will say, whose purpose is to overthrow our nation. Could the control room show the Manning Johnston PSA?
Manning Johnston was an American Negro who loved his country, and he loved it enough that he saw beyond Uncle Tom. A communist of stature within the international conspiracy, Manning Johnston had the strength to renounce communism when he discovered for certain that its purpose was to use the Negro as a device to help commit all Americans of all colors to a slavery far worse than anything the pre-emancipation American Negro had ever experienced. We preserve the speech on this record for posterity, and we present it with malice toward none, but rather with the belief that had its wisdom and sheer logic reached enough Americans at the time the speech was made, the communists never could have succeeded in provoking the violence and insurrection we have unhappily witnessed. Now, Manning Johnston.
Don't spread the rumor throughout the world that Negroes are kept in ignorance because of prejudiced white people and all of that propaganda, because that type of propaganda is the brainchild of the communists. And they want to use the Negro to gain foothold in those parts of the world where the darker races exist. I don't give a tinker's damn about a Negro. There are certain people who are using the Negro in order to establish that power in Washington. And the Negro is just merely a pawn in a game that's bigger than he is.
Black people were always ripe for use by the communists because many of us.
Okay, that came in a little early. Well, anyway, that's what Manning Johnston, the woman we got cut short on there, she was saying black people were tended to be ripe to be manipulated because many of them did grow up in poverty. But as we're saying here, there are constructive ways to overcome and aid poverty without overthrowing the country, without the government destroying the family, without selling drugs. So this is a kind of a mature subject for younger children, but I wanted to tell children so that you know about it now, because you're growing up in the generation that has to deal with this conspiracy to keep racism alive in the United States when it shouldn't be. The United States is no longer, and has not been since Martin Luther King, no longer systemically racist. All right. Well, nobody called in this show, but that's all right. I got to go over important points for youth to hear anyway. And with that, I think it's getting time to close. Looks like it. So we'll be playing this program. Teach young people about some of the things we've talked about. And we will, I guess, see you next time, continuing to make programs, Lord willing. Teach your young people these 4 points about their appearance. It's not that important. It's what God made them to be. Teach them that their words are powerful, that soft words turn away anger, egregious words stir up strife and do great injury that you can't take back, hurting people. Never hit girls. Teach boys to respect girls in every respect. They have a high responsibility in life. Their lives are circumscribed for bearing and having children, which is vital to the continuation of the human race. Be a defender. And drugs and alcohol. I talked about the dangers of drugs. I didn't say too much about alcohol. I could mention that because I had a problem with smoking. I didn't mention that either, but I'd advise you not to get started in that. But alcohol, I had a problem with alcohol, but not chemical other drugs. In a way, it creeps up on you. Alcohol, you start drinking it socially. Feels good. And in my younger years, I didn't know anything. I didn't know about this book of Proverbs that I've been putting on your screen. It's the key for learning, for young people to learn knowledge, youth knowledge and discretion. So the only way I knew how to entertain myself was sitting at a bar and drinking, and I did. Eventually that catches up to you. You sort of get addicted. My brother-in-law told me, who was an alcoholic, but he overcame it. But he said the way you can tell when you're becoming an alcoholic is when someone says something about your drinking and it just infuriates you. It doesn't mean you have to hit them or anything like that, but inside you just feel infuriated. Well, that's what happened to me. I was out of town, under stress, lonely, in a foreign town, a faraway town, so I started drinking. It got heavier and heavier. I started having memory lapses. The next day I couldn't remember things. And one young woman I saw in a bar, she went to the church I went to in that town out of the way. She mentioned about my drinking, and inside it just made me furious. I didn't like her to begin with, but it made me furious, and then I remembered what my brother-in-law said. That's the borderline. When you get furious because someone says something about your drinking, you are crossing into the line, into alcoholism. Why? Because as you cross into alcoholism, you're surrendering to the drink, to the alcohol. And you're denying it to yourself. That's what makes you mad. You're trying to deny to yourself that you're really giving in. And when someone points it out, it makes you furious because it points out what you're trying to hide from yourself. So there's alcohol is a drug. Drugs are dangerous. With that, I'll say we're going to tend to make more shows, God willing. So see you next time.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, and I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord.